now get to KFILE with a new investigation here this hour that could be very relevant for Pete Hegseth's support, not just from senators, but also from Trump himself. So crucially, as Kristen is referring to, KFILE is uncovering some extreme points of view from Pete Hegseth and some very harsh criticism for Trump himself personally. Andrew Kaczynski joins me now. So, Andrew, let's start with some of the opinions that Hegseth has expressed that you have unearthed, especially in the context of what we're looking at tonight, right? A nomination in jeopardy. In particular, how he thinks the government should deal with rioters in the United States. What did you find?
Yeah, so as riots and protests were breaking out across the American cities in the summer of 2020, Hegseth, who was then a host of Fox and Friends, the morning show on Fox News, came down on the side of using the U.S. military to possibly quell some of that unrest. He cited a couple of examples in particular that we found, one of which was that autonomous zone that got set up in Seattle. The other was sending the National Guard to D.C. And this is something that I think we should know that did, according to some polls, actually have majority support, sending the U.S. military to break up riots, not protesters, but riots. That is something that wasn't necessarily, it was controversial, but not necessarily out of step with public opinion. Take a listen to some of his comments that he made on that in 2020.
Question is, do you send in the troops? Do you say, hey, this isn't going to happen anymore? Or do you let Seattle sort of implode on itself? It's the idea of you caught your kid with cigarettes underage, and do you take them away right away, or do you force them to smoke every cigarette in front of you in the entire pack to learn the lesson of what's not going to work?
And Aaron, this is something that he'd have direct oversight, right, as the Secretary of Defense, being, sending the U.S. military into American cities. And this was really reflective of a hardline approach that we found in our investigation of his view on the U.S. military that included support for waterboarding, pardoning U.S. soldiers who had been convicted or accused of war crimes, targeting cultural institutions in foreign countries as if they were considered military assets. Listen to him here talking about his views on waterboarding.
What are your thoughts about Hagel taking waterboarding off the table?
I think it's a mistake. Absolutely a mistake. And thankfully, the next commander, who was it? Brennan recently, the CIA director, said that he wouldn't follow orders if he was told to. Well, guess what? I don't think you're going to be the CIA director under a President Cruz or President Trump.
So, interesting to see that in the past. And of course, as a public figure, right, as a television host, there's a long record of what he said. You also found, and this is particularly crucial when it comes to what role Trump is going to play in forcing this nomination, that Hegseth had a history of criticizing Trump. What did you find there?
Yeah, he was harshly critical of Trump in the 2016 Republican primary for lacking national security experience. He mocked Trump for relying on the cable news for military advice. He attacked Trump for opposing the Iraq war. He attacked Trump for saying the U.S. shouldn't have gone into Afghanistan, and then Trump reversed himself on that. Then he attacked Trump for flip-flopping. He really was arguing, and this sort of goes against, at the time at least, that the whole America First idea. He really argued that Donald Trump was not hawkish enough on the military. Listen to him here.
You wouldn't want a top-tier presidential candidate getting all of their military advice from watching Meet the Press. There's a lot more nuance, there's a lot more detail. Foreign policy and national security is not about TV shows. They're going to have to walk back a little bit from this idea that he gets it from the political shows.
And look, that's not the only criticism we found. Some of them were deeply personal on Donald Trump. He even attacked him as a, quote, armchair tough guy. That was his quote. And then attacked him for getting deferments from the Vietnam War. Listen to him here.
It's typical Trump. All bluster, very little substance. He talks a tough game. But then when pressed on it, he's an armchair tough guy. I hate to say it, but this is a guy who said that John McCain is not a war hero, yet he sought his own 5 military deferments.
So it's going to be interesting to see here, Aaron, how Donald Trump squares both, those comments from 2016 versus what he's saying today.
All right, Andrew, thank you very much.